He made his horse a senator. He slept with his sisters. He declared himself a living god. For 2,000 years, historians assumed he was simply evil. New evidence says his brain was under attack from the day he was born, and the weapon came from inside his own family. Thunderous cheers shook the streets of Rome when the Senate proclaimed Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, better known as Caligula, as emperor on a spring morning in 37 CE. Crowds surged through the forum, shouting his name, while soldiers handed out sacks of grain and silver coins stamped with the new ruler's face. The city, weary from years under Tiberius's suspicion and purges, erupted in celebration. Caligula's arrival was met with open arms and wild hope. Inscriptions from the time describe the day as one of universal joy, with the prison doors thrown open and men condemned for treason set free. Ancient writers like Suetonius and Philo recall a city transformed overnight. The emperor ordered the burning of the infamous treason dossiers, towering stacks of parchment that had haunted Rome for a generation, declaring that no citizen should live in fear of the past. His generosity was immediate and spectacular. Each legionary received a gift of 300,000 sesterces, a sum that rippled through the economy and filled every tavern with song. The grain dole was doubled for the poor. Merchants enjoyed a 3-month suspension of customs duties, a relief confirmed by a Senate decree still visible in stone today. Caligula's name and titles began to appear on new coins, minted in Rome, and scattered across the empire. These denarii, bearing the legend C. Caesar AVG Germanic Ves, signaled the dawn of a new era and a ruler eager to be seen as a benefactor. The spectacle did not end with money. That summer, Caligula staged games and festivals on a scale Rome had never seen. At the dedication of the Temple of Divus Julius, ancient sources claim that 160,000 animals, cattle, goats, sheep, and birds were sacrificed in a single day. Modern historians doubt the literal number, but archaeological evidence from amphitheaters and animal remains confirms an event of staggering size. The meat from the slaughter fed the city for days. In the provinces, similar largesse followed. Alexandria received wheat and olives direct from the imperial treasury, while cities in Africa and Gaul held free games funded by imperial gifts. For a brief moment, it seemed that Rome had found its golden age once more. The emperor's face smiled from coins, his name echoed in the streets, and hope seemed to have returned. But behind the applause, the story of Caligula's reign was only beginning to unfold. The celebrations faded quickly into silence that autumn. 7 months after Caligula's triumph, a sudden illness swept through the palace. Ancient writers describe the episode in chilling detail. In October of 37 CE, Caligula was struck by a violent fever. His body shook with convulsions so severe that his attendants feared he would die. Suetonius records that the emperor lost consciousness for hours at a time, his skin burning, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. Cassius Dio adds that his voice faltered and his eyes grew wild, while Philo, watching from the court, noted a slackness in the emperor's face and a stumbling gait that left him barely able to stand. For days, Caligula drifted between delirium and stupor. He spoke nonsense, sometimes shouting commands that no one could understand. At moments, he seemed to recognize no one at all. The fever lingered, refusing to break. Physicians brought in by the Senate whispered among themselves, unable to explain the sudden collapse. The city waited. Rumors spread that the young emperor was near death, and that the old terrors of Tiberius might return at any moment. When Caligula finally emerged from his sickbed, the change was immediate and unnerving. Friends and advisors noticed a sharp edge in his voice and a coldness in his eyes. The man who had pardoned prisoners and fed the poor now moved through the palace in silence, watching and listening but rarely speaking. Ancient accounts agree that his mood shifted overnight, from generous to suspicious, from playful to cruel. Dio describes a ruler who began to order executions without warning. Suetonius writes that Caligula showed sudden bursts of laughter, followed by fits of rage. Even his closest supporters felt a growing sense of dread. The illness left scars that no one could see. What began as a fever had become something else entirely, a transformation that would haunt Rome for years to come. The city that once cheered his name now faced a new and unpredictable ruler. The mystery of Caligula's collapse would puzzle both his contemporaries and generations of investigators. The search for answers would soon move from the palace corridors to the realm of medicine as the story of Rome's golden boy became a case study in madness. Neurologists examining Caligula's collapse in October the 37 C. E have pointed to a clinical phenomenon known as status epilepticus. This is a prolonged seizure, defined today as continuous convulsions lasting more than 30 minutes, or a series of seizures without full recovery in between. Ancient accounts describe Caligula's body shaking violently, his mind drifting in and out of consciousness, and a fever that would not break. After days of delirium, he returned not as the man Rome had celebrated, but transformed, suspicious, withdrawn, and suddenly cruel. A 2021 review compared the emperor's symptoms to modern cases of temporal lobe epilepsy. Patients who survive status epilepticus often experience lasting changes in mood and personality. The literature on post-ictal psychosis describes paranoia, emotional blunting, and violent outbursts that can persist for months or even years. Suetonius and Cassius Dio both record that Caligula's behavior changed overnight. Their descriptions match the clinical profile of someone who has suffered a major neurological event. Hints of similar episodes appear elsewhere in his family. Julius Caesar is said to have fainted and lost awareness during his later years, possibly a focal seizure. The pattern of sudden illness followed by altered behavior runs deep in the Julio-Claudian line. But for Caligula, the consequences were immediate and catastrophic. The palace, once filled with celebration, became a place of fear. The search for what triggered his breakdown would soon turn to the poisons lurking in Rome's environment. Archaeologists have uncovered a silent threat woven into the daily life of Rome's elite, a threat not born of politics or war, but of the city's own luxury. Lead drawn from the mines of Spain and Britain flowed through every corner of imperial Rome. Its silvery coils lined the aqueducts, fed the fountains, and carried water into the marble homes of senators and emperors. In the kitchens, grape syrup boiled down in lead pots to sweeten wine became a staple at every banquet. This syrup, called sapa, was prized for its flavor, but it leached lead into every cup poured at the emperor's table. A research team analyzing sediment from Rome's ancient harbor found lead isotope signatures that matched those in the city's water pipes. Their findings suggest that water drawn for the imperial household contained up to 100 times more lead than local spring water. In 2020, bone samples from Roman cemeteries revealed a mean lead concentration above 25 micrograms per gram, levels now recognized as toxic. Chronic exposure at these levels causes insomnia, irritability, memory loss, and over years can erode impulse control and judgment. For the ruling family, every feast, every drink, and every bath added to a chemical burden carried silently in their blood. The evidence of this long, invisible poisoning sets the stage for a deeper look at the dynasty's genetic inheritance. The Julio-Claudian dynasty was bound together by more than ambition and power. Marriage contracts and adoption records show a family tree twisting inward, with cousins marrying cousins and uncles marrying nieces. Over generations, the same names repeat, tightening the circle of blood. Modern medical reviews chart a pattern that runs through the dynasty like a shadow. Augustus, the founder, suffered from blinding headaches and fainting spells. Tiberius, his successor, grew withdrawn and paranoid in old age. Claudius, who followed Caligula, showed motor tics and slurred speech even as emperor. Nero, the dynasty's last ruler, veered between grandiosity and violence, ending his life in a spiral of delusion. Each ruler displayed symptoms that today would raise questions of neurological or psychiatric illness. These were not isolated cases. The dynasty's endogamous marriages, meant to secure power, also concentrated hidden genetic risks. Historians trace these patterns across the family's archives, finding hints of epilepsy, mood disorders, and sudden behavioral shifts. The story of Caligula's madness does not stand alone. It completes a chain stretching back through generations, where the seeds of instability were sown long before he ever wore the purple. The descent into chaos was written into the family's very genes. Rome crowned itself immortal, but even an empire of marble and gold could not shield its rulers from the poisons within their blood. Today, we watch power rise and collapse, often blind to the inherited flaws beneath. History's greatest dynasty ended not by conquest, but by self-destruction.